Okay, so you want to own a gym. Weights, machines, a front desk, simple enough. Except almost nothing about this business works the way it appears. Signing up takes you 90 seconds on a phone. Canceling may require a letter or a phone call during office hours, or a visit in person, and that is not laziness on their part, it's design. Your most valuable customer and your most profitable customer are two completely different people, and they want opposite things. And the greatest threat to your gym is not the gym across the road. It's a much smaller room, charging 4 times as much for the exact opposite promise. We're going to get to every one of those. But first, the money, because the entry price shapes everything that follows. A gym needs a large box. Not an expensive box, but a big one, with high ceilings. And that combination is genuinely awkward to find. You want a big box retail unit, or an industrial shed, or a basement under an office tower. And you want it near where people live or work, because the single most reliable predictor of whether somebody uses a gym is not how good the gym is. It's how far away it is. People do not drive across a city to exercise. They go to the one they pass anyway, or they don't go at all. So you sign a lease, and it's a long one, because nobody fits out a building like this for a 2-year term. Then you fill it. And here's where people underestimate. Commercial gym equipment is not home equipment. A treadmill that will survive being pounded by 100 people a day, forever, is a serious industrial machine, and it costs accordingly. Multiply that by the number of cardio machines you need, then add the resistance machines, the free weights, the racks, the benches, the flooring that has to survive a dropped barbell without destroying the slab beneath it. And then the parts nobody pictures. Changing rooms. Showers, which means plumbing and hot water at volume, at 7 in the morning, when everybody wants it simultaneously. Ventilation, and a lot of it, because a room full of exercising human beings generates an astonishing amount of heat and humidity, and your air handling has to move all of it, all day. Mirrors, lighting, sound, security, cleaning, constantly, forever. So the box is cheap and everything inside it is not. And your costs, once you're open, are almost entirely fixed. The rent doesn't move. The equipment lease doesn't move. The staff, the electricity, the water, the cleaning, all of it arrives whether 4 people came in today or 400. And there's a quieter cost sitting underneath all of that, which is that the equipment is dying. A commercial treadmill has a working life measured in years, not decades, and it spends every one of those years being hammered. Belts wear. Motors burn out. Bearings go. Cables fray. Upholstery splits. And the failure is not graceful, because a gym full of visibly broken machines with handwritten out-of-order signs taped to them is a gym that is telling every member every day that it has given up. So you are on a replacement treadmill of your own. Every year, a slice of the fleet has to be refreshed. And that is not an optional expense you can defer indefinitely, because the moment you start deferring it, the enthusiasts, who are the ones who notice, begin to leave. And notice what that does to your exit. If this goes badly, what exactly do you sell? A long lease on a large box, and a warehouse of used, heavily worn gym equipment, which is one of the least liquid assets you could possibly be holding. Nobody wants a second-hand treadmill with 100,000 miles on it. The equipment cost a fortune, and it is worth almost nothing, which means the door in is expensive, and the door out barely exists. You are, from the day you sign, considerably more committed than you feel. Which brings us directly to the strangest fact in this entire business, and to the thing everything else is built on. Your gym cannot function if your members turn up. I want to be precise about that, because it is not a figure of speech. Look at what you have actually built. You have a certain number of treadmills, a certain number of benches, a certain amount of floor, a car park with a certain number of spaces, and a fire code, which is a legal document that specifies the maximum number of human beings permitted to be inside that building at one time. Now count your members, and notice that the number is far, far larger than the number the building can hold. That is not an accident, and it is not fraud. It is the model. A gym sells more memberships than it has capacity for, deliberately, because it knows with total statistical confidence that the overwhelming majority of them will not be there on any given evening. If every single person who pays you decided to come in on the same Tuesday at 6, you would not have a busy gym. You would have a physical emergency. There would not be enough machines, enough space, enough showers, enough parking, or enough air. And you would be in breach of the law about how many people are allowed to stand in your own building. So the business is not merely hoping that most members stay home. It is sized, priced, and structurally dependent on it. Now, we have seen a version of this before. When we looked at the car wash, the unlimited subscription worked because most members didn't show up. But look carefully, because the gym is a harder and stranger version of that problem. A car wash does not care if you come. If every member turned up, the tunnel would simply run all day and the queue would be long. Annoying, but survivable. The machine has no ceiling. A gym has a ceiling, a legal one, and a physical one, which means the gym is not merely more profitable when you stay home. It is only possible because you stay home. Absence is not a happy accident in this business. It is a load-bearing wall. And once you understand that, everything else in this industry starts making sense. Beginning with the month that decides your entire year, January, you know exactly what happens. An enormous share of everything a gym sells in a year, it sells in a few short weeks to people who have made a promise to themselves. And the promise is genuine. Nobody signs up in January intending to quit. They picture a version of themselves who goes 3 times a week, who gets stronger, who becomes the sort of person who exercises. And then February happens. It's dark. It's cold. Work is busy. They miss a week. And missing a week makes going back harder, not easier, because now they feel behind and slightly embarrassed. And by March, the treadmills that had a queue on the 2nd of January are quietly empty. But here's the part that matters, and it's the part that makes this a business rather than a sad observation about human nature. They don't cancel. The money keeps arriving. Every month, from people who have not been through the door since winter, into a gym that has gone back to being half empty and is functioning beautifully. And this is why the whole industry organizes itself around a small number of weeks. Look at where the advertising goes. Look at when the introductory offers appear. The waived joining fees, the first month free, the aggressive discounting that would look like desperation at any other time of year. All of it is aimed at a narrow window when a very large number of people are, briefly, willing to make a decision they have been avoiding for 11 months. Because the gym knows something about that decision. It knows that the person signing up in that moment is not, in any meaningful sense, buying access to a building. They are buying a feeling about themselves. And a person buying a feeling is far less price sensitive and far less careful about the terms than a person buying a service they intend to use. Which is also why the numbers underneath a gym look so strange to an outsider. A gym is constantly, permanently leaking members. People move. People lose interest. People finally make the phone call. So the business is not a stable base of loyal customers. It is a bucket with a hole in it. And January is the month you get to refill the bucket. Everything else in the year is spent watching the level go down and trying to slow the leak. And when you understand that, you understand why the terms of the contract matter so enormously. Which brings us to the first of the 4 things I mentioned at the start. Why don't they cancel? Because you made it hard. Look at the asymmetry. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Joining a gym is one of the smoothest transactions in modern commerce. It takes about 90 seconds. You can do it on your phone, on the sofa, at 11 at night, in a burst of enthusiasm, with a card number and a single tap. Everything about that process is engineered to remove friction, because friction at that moment is the enemy. Now try to leave. In a great many gyms, and for a very long time in this industry, canceling could not be done on the phone you joined with. It required a written letter, or a phone call, but only during office hours, when you are at work, or a visit in person to a desk where a member of staff who is trained for this conversation and who probably has a retention offer in front of them will ask you why. That is not incompetence. That is not a legacy system nobody got around to updating. That is a designed asymmetry, and it exists because the business has understood something about people. A person who wants to leave in a moment of irritation and who is told they must write a letter will very often simply not write the letter. They'll do it next month. And next month, the payment goes out again. The friction is the moat. It is the closest thing this business has to a defensive wall, and it is made entirely out of human reluctance. And it has been so effective and so widely used that lawmakers in a number of places have begun legislating specifically to force gyms to make cancellation as easy as signing up, which tells you exactly how valuable that friction was, because you do not need a law to stop something that wasn't working. All right, second thing. Your most valuable customer and your most profitable customer are two different people. Let's meet them both. The first is the ghost. They joined in January. They came 4 times. They pay every month reliably, and they use nothing. They take up no space. They wear out no equipment. They do not need a shower or a locker or a member of staff to help them. They consume no electricity and no hot water. They are, from a pure margin standpoint, the perfect customer, and the gym would like several thousand of them. The second is the enthusiast. They are there 5 times a week. They love the place. They are on your machines, wearing them down. They are taking up a bench that somebody else wants. They are in your showers, using your hot water, filling your car park, and asking your staff questions. And they pay exactly the same monthly fee as the ghost. On the base membership, the enthusiast is a cost, and the ghost is a profit. That's the uncomfortable arithmetic. Except, the enthusiast is the only person in the building who will ever buy anything else from you. And that is where the actual money in a gym lives. Because the membership fee, particularly at the lower end of the market, is a thin and heavily competed number. The real margin sits in everything on top of it. And every single one of those things can only be sold to somebody who is actually in the room. Which brings us to the layers. The first is the membership itself. Volume. Predictable, recurring, contractual, and thin. The second, and this is the profit engine of a great many gyms, is personal training. A member pays a serious hourly rate to be trained, and that rate is a multiple of what they pay for a month of access. Sometimes the gym employs the trainer and takes a large cut of the session fee. Sometimes the trainer is effectively renting the floor, paying the gym for the right to operate on it and keeping the rest. Either way, the gym is monetizing a customer far, far more intensively than a membership ever could. And personal training does something else, which the smartest operators understand and the rest discover too late. It changes the member. Think about who cancels. Somebody who joined alone, comes alone, exercises alone, and has no relationship with anybody in the building. Nothing holds them. Nobody notices when they stop. Leaving costs them precisely nothing except the phone call. Now think about somebody who has a trainer. They have an appointment. They have a person who is expecting them, who will notice if they don't arrive, and who they would feel slightly ashamed to disappoint. They have, in other words, a human relationship inside your building, and human relationships are the stickiest thing there is. So, personal training is not merely your highest margin product. It is also, quietly, your best retention tool. It takes the member who was most likely to eventually drift away, the engaged one, the one with actual intent, and it ties them to a person rather than to a building. Which is a genuinely important point, and it is the reason the threat we're building toward is as dangerous as it is. The third is classes. Spin, yoga, strength, whatever fills the studio. Sometimes included, often not, and increasingly a separately priced product. Because the gym has worked out that people will pay for a scheduled commitment in a way they will not pay for an open door. And then the fourth category, the ancillaries. Supplements and drinks at the desk. Branded clothing, locker rental, physiotherapy, sports massage, body scanning, guest passes. And, at scale, corporate contracts where a company buys memberships for its staff, which is glorious, because a corporate deal delivers a large block of members at once, many of whom will barely attend. So look at the shape of the business you've built. It is a room priced for absence, but profitable only through presence. The ghosts pay the rent. The enthusiasts pay for everything else. And those two customers are, physically, in direct competition for the same floor, because every enthusiast who shows up makes the room more crowded for everybody, which makes the experience worse, which is precisely what causes marginal members to stop coming. Read that again because it is genuinely bizarre. The gym needs the enthusiasts to make real money and needs the ghosts to be able to exist at all, and the enthusiasts drive away the ghosts by using the thing the ghosts are paying for and not using. That is a business at war with itself, on its own floor, every single day. And no amount of good management makes that contradiction go away. You can only manage it. Which brings us, finally, to the trapdoor. And it is not one competitor. It is two, coming from opposite directions, built on opposite theories of what a gym even is. From below comes the budget gym. Its model is the same as yours, but purer, and therefore cheaper. Strip out the staff. Strip out the pool, the sauna, the towels, the classes included in the fee. Automate the entry with a keycard. Run the building with a skeleton crew, or no crew at all overnight. And then charge a monthly fee so low that it stops being a considered purchase and becomes something a person barely notices leaving their account. And that last part is the genius of it, and the danger. At a very low monthly price, the ghost problem gets better, not worse. Somebody paying a large monthly fee eventually notices they aren't going and cancels out of guilt or thrift. Somebody paying a trivial fee may never quite get around to it, because the amount is too small to be worth the phone call. The budget gym has taken your absence-based model and optimized it, and it can undercut you to a price you cannot match without dismantling everything that makes you not a budget gym. And notice the cruel logic of trying to compete with them. You cannot simply lower your price because your cost base is higher. You have the staff, the pool, the towels, the classes, the reception, all the things they deleted. Every one of those is a cost they do not carry, and you do. So the moment you match their price, you are running their business model with your expenses, which is not a strategy. It is a countdown. And from above comes the thing that should genuinely worry you. The boutique studio. Look at what it does, because it is the exact inversion of your entire business. It's small. It's one room. It charges a great deal, often per class rather than per month, at a rate that works out to many times your membership fee. It does not want ghosts. It wants you there. It builds a schedule, and a community, and an instructor who knows your name and notices when you're missing. Its whole product is attendance. It is designed from the ground up to make you show up, which is the precise opposite of the assumption holding your building together. And here is why that is so dangerous to you specifically. Ask who leaves your gym to go to one of those. It is never the ghost. The ghost isn't going anywhere, because the ghost isn't going anywhere at all. It's the enthusiast. It is the committed, motivated, engaged member who cares enough about training to pay a premium for something better. Which is to say, it is precisely the person who is buying your personal training, your classes, your supplements, and your merchandise. The boutique studio does not take your dead weight. It takes your margin. And look at what it took them with. Not better equipment. The equipment in a boutique studio is often a fraction of what you have, and sometimes it's barely any equipment at all. They did not outinvest you. They outflanked you, using the one thing your entire model cannot offer. They noticed when people didn't come. That's it. That's the weapon. A room small enough that your absence is visible, an instructor who says your name, a schedule you booked into, a group of people who expect to see you on Thursday. Every one of those things creates the exact obligation that your business is structurally built to avoid creating, because your business needs people not to show up. You cannot copy that. Not really. A gym with thousands of members, sized for absence, cannot credibly turn around and build its product on presence, because if it succeeded, it would break its own building. That is the trap. The one thing that would let you defend against the studio is the one thing your capacity does not permit you to do. So the mid-market gym is being squeezed from both ends simultaneously by two businesses that agree about nothing except that you are in the way. The budget gym takes your volume by being cheaper at the thing you both do. And the boutique studio takes your profit by being better at the thing you were never really designed for. So let's answer the question. What do you actually own when you own a gym? You own a large fixed cost room, sold to more people than it can physically hold, financed by the members who have stopped coming, made profitable by the few who never stopped, and defended, more than anything else, by how annoying it is to cancel. That is the honest structure. And it is not a scandal. It is simply what the thing is. And every gym you have ever walked into, at every price point, is some version of it. The equipment is real, the staff are real, and the people who do show up genuinely get stronger. All of that is true. And underneath it, the arithmetic only works because most of the people paying for the room are not standing in it. So, should you buy one? Here's the honest split. The optimistic version goes like this. You take a site that thousands of people pass every day, because proximity beats quality in this business, and always has. You price where you can actually defend, either genuinely cheap or genuinely premium, and never in the soft middle, where you are simply the worse option in both directions. You build a serious personal training and class operation, because that is where your money actually is, and you make it easy for an enthusiast to spend more with you rather than leaving to spend it elsewhere. And you accept, without sentiment, that your business is carried by people who are not in the room, and you build a room that a reasonable number of them might one day come back to. The harder version looks like this. You opened in the middle. You are not cheap enough to beat the budget chain that opened a mile away and charges a fraction of what you do. You are not good enough, or specific enough, or communal enough to hold the enthusiasts who have drifted off to a small studio with an instructor who knows their name. So you keep the ghosts for a while, because ghosts are loyal in the way that only the disengaged can be. And then the law changes, and cancellation becomes a single tap on a phone and one quiet month. A great many people who had been meaning to do it for years finally get around to it, all at once. And notice what decides between those two futures. Almost none of it is the quality of the equipment, because in the end, a gym doesn't sell fitness. It sells the intention to get fit, and it has built its entire business on the reliable, forgivable, deeply human gap between the two.